Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I am Steve Smith. You ever seen anyone get killed? You ever seen anyone die? Most people haven't. Very few people have seen anyone die. Even fewer people have seen anyone get killed in a violent way. And if you haven't, there's nothing to feel ashamed of. It's nothing that you want to see. It's not cool. It's just not something that the normal person wants to experience. I want to talk about that tonight. I want to talk about reality, and I want to talk about how many people aren't ready for it. I got a text earlier today from Hallie. Many of you might remember Hallie. She's been on a couple of videos with me. She's an old. Well, she's not old. She's 23 years old. She's a good friend of ours, a good friend of our family. She's a student of mine and combatives. She's like our adopted daughter. She texted me this afternoon, said she was having a bad day. She just getting over the you know what. So I asked her, you having a bad day being sick, or you having a bad day at work, or what? She's an EMT, rides a bus, an ambulance out at a very high activity area east of Kansas City here. She said she's having a tough day at work, so I told her to give me a call when she could or she wanted to, and she did. Young police officer was killed today out in Independence, Missouri. He was 2 months out of the academy. She is explaining this to me. Maybe I should back up and let you know that she was the first, her crew, the crew that she drives for, was the first EMS crew on the scene. And so she was working through this as she was talking to me. What had happened? There was a call, as so many of us have worked so many of these, a problem, an undetermined problem at a house, a disturbance of some kind. And so as young officer and his FTO, field training officer, young kid 2 months out of the academy, they show up to this house. Don't know the details. I can kind of imagine what might have happened. Actually, it wasn't too far from my old district. But went up to the door. Apparently the door opened, and they shot this kid right in the head. Well, the FTO killed the dirtbag, and then the call went out, officer down. And when that happens, there's nothing like it. You've never seen anything like it in your life. Every cop within radio distance is headed that way. Well, she was in her ambulance was only a block away from where it happened. So she got there. They were told, apparently, and there's a lot of lessons in here that I want to try to get to, and then there's greater lessons farther on for more things we're dealing with in our world today. Turned out that they were advised that the scene was secure. Now, and it's kind of unusual to be secure that fast because excuse me, the medics aren't supposed to go into an unsecured scene. They're supposed to be secured before they go in. Well, what had happened, things were moving so fast that the other officers, when they got there, they saw the young cop there, and instead of waiting for an ambulance, they threw him in a squad car, apparently, to get him to a hospital. The details don't matter, but he didn't make it. She explained to me some of the details, and I'm not going to discuss those. But anyway, the traffic went out that they were on their way to the hospital, and somehow miscommunications, like always happens in an emergency, made it sound to them like the scene was secure. So they show up in their ambulance. It's not at all secure. They get up there. The FTO was still kneeling over the body of the suspect, checking for a pulse. SWAT was just arriving, and of course the scene hadn't been secured, and here was this ambulance crew in the middle of the scene, which is not a good deal. Other cops were inside the house still fighting with a lot of the other occupants. It was a meth house. It was full of meth heads. And so they were just going to town. You imagine, I don't know how many of you are in a situation that can understand this, but you got a meth house with a bunch of meth heads in it, and one of them has just killed a cop, and there's cops swarming all over the place. Outside of a combat zone, there is nothing much more chaotic than that. So anyway, things are just going to town, as you can imagine. Finally, they stayed for the deceased suspect, dirtbag, killer, meth head. And of course, she's, it's the first time for her. She's young. She knew this guy. She knew this guy. He'd only been two months out of the academy, but she had been on calls with him before. So anyway, so we talked for quite a while, and I, gave her my thoughts on it and such. There are a lot of lessons in this, and a lot of lessons that people need to realize. Those people who think they're getting ready, or think they are ready for reality. One of the first things is the communications that you practice so much, out the window. Communications is always one of the first things to go down. Misunderstandings, miscommunications, teams. I had an old partner when I was undercover shot by the cops on a raid because of miscommunication. Maybe I'll tell that story sometime. I explain. Now we're jumping off to other areas, other lessons here. And I think I've mentioned this in previous videos, maybe a long time back. I used to teach, and I teach all of my students still, that in an attack situation, you're faced with 3 enemies. 3. You may think it's 1, it's not, it's 3. The first is confusion. The second is fear, and the third is the attacker. Now, after you've experienced attacks enough, and most people don't, thankfully, most people don't live lives to where they get used to being attacked. Some people do. It just kind of depends on what kind of life you live, But for those who don't, their first reaction is confusion. Now, you can call this the OODA loop and all like that. Okay, I'm going to stay away from that. Just keep it real simple. Confusion. This can't be happening. Okay, I can pretty much imagine what happened with this young officer out there. But the first is confusion. All of a sudden, reality happens like that. And that's another thing that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of you out there do. I know that. A lot of you guys on this channel and subscribe to this channel, a lot of you have the background and you do understand. For those who don't understand these things, listen up. This could help you a lot. You need to know this in case bad times ever head your way. Reality will come at you in the blink of an eye. All of a sudden, your world changes, and that freezes you into you're confused. Okay. The second thing that comes out of that confusion, for many people, is an understanding that they don't know what to do, and they're going to come out of this situation badly if they come out at all. That creates fear, which just exacerbates the confusion, and they'll either run or melt or freeze or any number of things. Even the ones, and I've seen it, the big, rough, tough guys who like to talk the game, okay, the ones who are always, I'm going to stay away from that. But the guys who thought they were ready because they were always talking about it in training does not prepare you for reality. Let me rephrase that. Training does not prepare you to respond effectively to reality. Okay? Training prepares you to survive your first contacts with reality, and reality and experience then become your teacher. And then you learn, and then you become accustomed to dealing with violence. If you don't do that, you aren't ready. Okay? I know a lot of people do, but I say it takes more than a black T-shirt with a cool saying on it, and all the gear to be ready for this stuff. You're not until you've been in it. Okay? The first time you're in it, if you survive it, it's because you lucked out for any number of reasons, and then you start ticking back the lessons in your head. Shit. Well, I didn't mean to say that on... I try never to say anything like that on this. That slipped. I apologize. Wow, that happened. That could have happened. I could have got whacked in that situation. This didn't go right. I didn't do that properly. I need to, all these things that you're going to learn from. Okay. So attacks happen faster than you ever think. They spin up faster than you ever imagine. And then you have more enemies than you think you do. Okay. Now I can apply that to if everything, SHTF. If things really do fall apart, you can find yourself in a horrible situation really fast. But let's bring it down just a notch and talk about kind of what's going on with all these layoffs at the companies and hospitals and things like that. When all these mandates were announced, and I know you're wondering, why is he jumping to these mandates? Well, because the same lessons apply. There are principles in life. A principle is something on which decisions can be made, against which things can be measured. A principle applies universally. Okay, when all these mandates came out, and I heard people saying, well, they can't do that. Oh, well, I'm just going to do this. We'll just do this. We'll just do that. We'll just do this. We'll just do that. That was the voices of inexperience. Those were the voices of people reacting immediately to a threat they didn't yet fully understand. Okay? As they started, and as I talked to these people, and I would explain to them, I'm not trying to act like I'm all brilliant. I've got a bunch of experience in this stuff, okay? That's why. When I would explain to them, when they'd say, well, just do this, and I'd go, whoa, see, here's the problem with that. That's not going to work. Oh, okay. Well, then just do this. I'm not going to go through, and I'm not making fun of anybody that was like that. I'm really not. What I'm pointing out is the danger of not fully recognizing and understanding an enemy, an opponent, whatever that thing is coming against you, whether it's a physical attack, whether it's somebody coming at you with a gun, whether it's somebody coming at you with a board, whether it's an employer coming at you with a mandate. If you don't recognize it and have a deep understanding of the situation, you're not going to deal with it well. And now we're seeing this. Every one of the initial responses that people had to these, and they came out with, and they were very sure of themselves, very certain in their ideas, because everybody thinks they're smart. Everybody thinks their opponent is stupid and they're smart, right? That's the first big mistake. Okay? Never underestimate your opponent, and never overestimate yourself or your experience or your breadth of knowledge. But people have a tendency to go full bore on a very limited amount of knowledge. You've probably noticed that right through your life. Some of the loudest, most opinionated people are the people with the least amount of experience in something, right? They just have an opinion. There he goes. Glad we didn't miss our nightly street guy. what was I saying? Some of the least knowledgeable people are the loudest and the most adamant in their opinions. Is just because they know so little, they don't realize how much they don't know, right? But they have an opinion and they love it and they're sticking with it. This is the problem of not understanding the breadth and depth of an opponent or an opponent's plan. All of this comes together. It comes together in what we're dealing with right now, with the challenges that many people are facing, with the losing their jobs or about to lose their jobs, and that's going to create just a horrendous economic mess again. Not to be put into this video here, but I'll do another one on that. And they're not prepared because they don't understand, because it's a reality that is beyond them. They never would have thought that anybody would do this. They never would have thought that a company, an organization that they've been with. I talked to a girl now, I've been there 18 years, and they're forcing her to do this thing, and she's not going to do 18 years. She has worked overtime. She has done everything for that place. Everything. And she's losing her job in a month. And there's just hardly any way these people can wrap their heads around that. There are so many people out there hurting so bad right now. I just, it's mind-boggling. And I can only hope that the repercussions of this and the pushback is going to be enough to correct it. We will see. We will see. But coming back now from both these ends of this young police officer that was killed today, and from the experience that a lot of people are going through now, both did not recognize, did not have an understanding of the threat, and both are experiencing, well, I mean, you can't get worse than that young officer dying, but other people are experiencing real hardship in their life. I want to bring this now to a real collapse situation, a real SHTF or Tiatuaki or WRL or EROL or whatever it is, any of the vast number of catastrophes that could befall us. And they can. You see the world falling apart. Any of this could happen. EMP could happen tomorrow. A lot of people are hoping for it. They're saying that's the only thing that could straighten things out. Can't say that I necessarily disagree with that. But the thing is this, is that whatever happens, when these things come down the road, the ones who are not mentally and emotionally prepared to immediately accept the reality of the situation are going to do very poorly. They're either going to be dead or under somebody else's thumb. Whatever horrors could befall them, or in a camp or whatever. If you aren't tuned up, if you aren't mentally and emotionally aware and ready to go at any moment, if you can't accept horrible reality when it happens like that, if you're not ready to respond instead of react, too many people react instead of responding. See, reacting means they're in charge. Responding means you're in charge, or at least you're in charge of your response, right? That's going to be the difference. The ones who aren't up to it don't stand a chance. Don't stand a chance. I've written about some of that in my books, but you can imagine some of the horrible things that could happen. The ones who are ready, most of it comes from experience. I guess maybe a person could be ready without experience. I think it'd be very, very difficult. I can't imagine a person being ready without having some experience in this, because you just don't have a grasp of the reality. And that's the difference. Training is not reality. And I know that, people who just train, I know that butt hurts them. I'm sorry, tough. The truth is the truth, and it doesn't help anybody for to sugarcoat this stuff and say that because you've gone out and trained, that you're ready to go. Now, it's great you trained. Like I say, training always beats no training, right? And usually, though not always, more training beats less training. If you got bad training, it doesn't. But I'm going to wrap this up because this is basic it. Those who aren't ready, mentally and emotionally, don't understand reality, are going to have a hard time in anything. People who are going to have a chance. So my advice here, my thought for the night is, you've got to be ready. You've got to start thinking deeper. You have to start accepting the fact that there are forces out there that want horrible things for you. The only person who can keep that from happening is you. So think about it. Apply yourself. Don't hide in the back corners of your mind of, I hope this doesn't happen. Okay? Or this can't happen. Yeah, it can. And it might. And to some it will. But whether it happens to you or not depends entirely, almost entirely. I mean, you never have control of your enemy. They get a say in the matter. But it depends a lot on you. And it depends totally on you whether you're ready. So I'm going to leave it at that. For those of you who are of a like, please say prayers for this young officer and his family, the one who was killed today. It's always sad. The law enforcement community is a brotherhood and a sisterhood now. We all don't necessarily think the same way. I'll leave it at that. But it's always a sad case. It seemed like this young man was one who was out there for the right reasons, really wanted to make a difference. 2 months into his, what he hoped to be a long career, and it's over. So keep him in our prayers if you'd like to. And I'll leave it at that and remind you that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and nothing illustrates that and the importance of mental and emotional preparation as much as this does. It'll take you through all the different layers of problems in your life. So you all have a good night. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.